Today we're doing 9.5 through 9.6. We're just going to take some review notes for our quiz that we have coming up tomorrow. All right, so number one is a review from yesterday. Write the percent of change formula. What is it, guys? Okay, what does AOC stand for?
Amount of change.
Okay, so this percent is going to be found by finding the amount of change over the original amount. Okay, for this problem, we're going to identify the percent of change as an increase or decrease and then find what the percent of change is. So let's just look at this. If the original amount was 40 and now it is 50, did that increase or decrease?
Increase.
All right, it increased. Now, how do I find the percent of change?
P equals AOC over the original.
Very good. P equals AOC over the original. How do I find the amount of change?
Subtract 40 from 50.
All right, you're going to subtract the 50 minus the 40. And then what was the original amount? 40. Just girls, what is 50 minus 40? 10. So we know now it's going to be 10 over 40. If I want that to be a decimal, what is 10 over 40? 0.25. Now, did that come out as a percent?
No.
How do I turn that to a percent? Okay, so now my answer is 25%. And going back real quick, remember we started at 40 and now it's 50. Is that an increase or a decrease?
Increase.
All right, so your answer is going to be a 25% increase. All right, I want you guys to go ahead and try to do problem B on your own, the same exact way we just did problem A. All right, as I walked around, I saw a lot of great answers. Let's start off with, what is the formula I got to start with? All right, Landon, how did you find your amount of change?
I took 16 minus 12.
Okay, and what was the original amount? What is 16 minus 12, Landon? 4. So I've got 4 over 12. When I put that in, Emma, what is the decimal? 0.3 repeating. Now remember, that means it goes on and on and on forever. Now I don't need it to go on and on forever, but in order to turn this into a percent, what do I do with my decimal?
Move it over 2 places.
2 places to the right. And we know I don't want it to go on forever like we talked about. We will always round it to the nearest tenth, which is this number right here. So what is my answer? 33.3%, okay? And as you just said, we know it was 12 and it went up to 16, so that is an increase. How many of you would say that you got that answer on your own before we even went over it? Okay, if you didn't, are there any questions, something that we did that you did not understand? All right, great job on that one. This problem is asking us to give the angle that would correspond with the information given in the data. Here at the table, we see that 45% thought that blue was their favorite color, 20% of the people thought green was their favorite color, and 35% said that red was their favorite color. So we have to do this. We have a formula that we've used for P times of equals is. But before we even go into that, does anyone remember how many degrees a circle has? 360, okay? So when we're doing P times of equals is, we have to change the percent to a decimal, 0.45, and then we are going to multiply that by the total number of degrees that a circle has, 360. Okay, so right here we're just multiplying 45% times 360 degrees. What's the answer? 162 degrees. Now I want you guys to go ahead and do 20% and 35% on your own. Sure. All right, guys, have a seat. All right, as I just walked around, I saw a lot of excellent answers. 20%. What angle did you guys get for that?
72.
72 degrees, good job. How about the 35%? 126. Now remember, there is a way to figure out if you did that correct or not. You can add up all those angles and what should it equal? How many of you would say that yours equaled 360 degrees? Okay, because just remember, all of these right here are supposed to be parts of the degrees that make up the circle, and a whole circle is always 360 degrees. So when you add those up, you should have gotten 360 degrees. Very good job. I saw a lot of correct answers on that one. All right, this one's asking us to use a proportion to answer the question, what is a proportion? It's two ratios that equal each other, okay? So what is ours that we know whenever we're doing this proportion? Okay, that's two ratios or two fractions that equal each other. Remember, the thing that a lot of people have had a struggle with is trying to figure out their is, their of, and their p. So we're just going to take this right here and break it into three sections. What's the first section?
Is.
What number is? Okay, what's the next part?
15%.
15%, and the last part? Okay, you just got to make sure each one of those sections has an is, an of, or a p inside of it. Asia, help me out. What's my is? X, what's my of? And what's my p? Okay, should I put right here 0.15?
No.
I heard some yes and some no.
No.
No, 15% means 15 over 100, so you don't want a decimal point there, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do cross products right here to find our answer. 100x equals what, guys? 60 times 15. What is 60 times 15?
900.
900. I want to get x by itself, so I have to divide by 100 on both sides. This one, now I'm left with x equals, and what's my number? 9. Go back to the original question where it says, what number is 15% of 60? So do I need to change this to a percent or a decimal or anything? Nope. Your number is 9. Excellent job. All right, we're going to do the same thing. This says 13 is 65% of what number? Help me out, guys. What's the proportion? All right, very good. Emma, what is my is? 13. JD, what's my of?
Oh, you don't know.
Okay, so I'll just put an X. Gabby, what's the percent? 65. So I'm going to put 65 over 100. Once again, we're going to be doing cross products here. Michael Nix, help me out. What do I do?
13 times 100. 13 over 100 equals x 65.
Okay, 65x. Landon, what's 13 times 100?
1300.
1300 equals 65x. Jakari, what do I do next? Divide by 65 on both sides. And Carlos, what do I get? Very good. So now I just go back where it says 13 is 65% of what number? So I know I want it to be a number and I don't need to do anything to this. 20 is the correct answer. Great job. For this one, the difference is we are going to be using the percent equation instead of a proportion to answer it. Still, same idea. You can break it up by knowing what number is 13% and of 29. What is the percent equation, guys? P times of equals is. Jakari, what's my P? And what do I have to do to that 13%? Good job. So what would it be? 0.13. Very good. Kyla, what's my of? 29. And Michael, what's my is? It's just plain old x. Okay, so now I can't do anything on that side, so I'm going to come to this side. What is 0.13 times 29?
3.77.
3.77. All right, going back up here, it simply is asking me what number, and that is a number. It didn't ask you to round, and you don't need to round to the nearest tenth because we just round to the nearest tenth anytime that it goes on and on and on and on forever, okay? But this one, I can clearly see it ends in the hundredths, so this is 3.77 or 3 77 hundredths. Okay, problem B, what percent is 30 of 120? As I just looked around and glanced at many of your answers, there are a ton of different answers, which shows me not nearly everyone got it correct. So let's just break it up into is, of, and P. What's the first segment here that I'm going to underline? What percent? What's the next part?
Is 30.
Is 30. Next part. All right, so that should help you. Once again, please, if you are struggling to figure out your is, your of, or your P, do something like this. What's the percent equation?
2 times of equals is.
All right, what's my percent?
X.
X, or I'm going to keep it as a P, so it reminds me to change it to a percent. What's my of?
120.
What's my is?
30.
The whole goal is to get your variable by itself. How do I do that?
Divide by 120 on both sides.
Divide by 120 on both sides. As I'm doing this, if you see that you messed up, erase it and fix it in your notes, please. What's 30 divided by 120?
25%.
0.25. Since we want that to be a percent, what's the answer?
25%.
25%. Raise your hand if you got that.
I got it.
Okay, good job. What we're going to do now, we've got a circle graph up here, and I want us to answer the questions about it. So right now, I just want you to look at problem A. Once you think you know the answer, put your hand on top of your head. It's asking this. Find the percent of money spent on advertising. Once again, look at it carefully and see if you can figure out what the answer is. Asia, what do you think the answer is? 15%. Okay, do you think that I need to do any kind of work to find that answer?
No.
No, this is the kind that you can just simply look at it and you can see there's advertising and it is 15%. Excellent job. Let's go to the next one. Find the angle measure of the money spent on costumes and props. If it is asking you for an angle measure, can I just find it just by staring at the costumes and props section?
No.
No. Help me out to know what kind of work do I need to do for that?
0.2.
Okay.
Change the fraction to decimal.
Change that percent to a decimal
Times it times 360.
and multiply it by the total number of degrees there. What's the answer, guys?
72 degrees.
72 degrees. So as I look back, I do see all it's asked me for is an angle measure, and that is exactly what you gave to us. Okay? Any questions about that circle graph? Okay. I want you guys to make sure you're kind of studying this and reviewing just these couple sections we went over because there is a small quiz tomorrow about 9.5 to 9.6.